And so glad you could be with us. Well, there you have it. CP colored people time. Imagine if Donald Trump said that, or referring to criminals as super predators. And then you notice the condescension, the tone, the cadence, the pitch. I'll talk about Mr. Palmer, and, here we go. And what do you carry with you? Hot sauce? And I don't know what it is. Ann Coulter's the one that's laughing in the background. How are you?
And fine, thank you. And you?
And she's got a brand new best-selling book out. It's called In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. And it's doing extraordinarily well. We'll get our New York Times numbers later in the week. I'm sure you'll debut number one as usual. How you been?
Fine, thanks. One thing, I love that opening, the tapes you were playing. The one thing I would say about the super predator thing, I know some people, but I think they're mostly liberals, go crazy over that. I don't think that is as much of a problem as her saying that the big problem are the drug gangs and the gangs. And the gangs, well, who's bringing the heroin in? Who's bringing the fentanyl in?
It's coming from south of the border.
It completely is. The whole heroin problem, the whole gang problem, it wasn't, like Norm up in New Hampshire thinking, hey, I know, I'll call up the Sinaloa drug cartel. I have this idea here for distributing heroin. That is 100% from the manufacturing to the distribution, because now with the anchor babies and illegal aliens, they got the cartel members on both sides of the border. And it's one thing when liberals say, it's because American kids want to smoke pot, which, of course, liberals do say because they blame Americans. That's the one case where you blame the victim, not the pusher. You'd blame the manufacturer if it were a prescription drug. But heroin, nobody put in an order for black tar heroin. That was Mexican drug cartels standing outside the rehab centers.
Most of them had
hey,
guns,
senor.
by the way, that Obama gave them without GPS through Operation Fast and Furious. Let me ask you this, because Hillary last week, there's no ambiguity anymore. She was caught red-handed with the release of these new emails that came out. That, in fact, Hillary Clinton sold access to her office.
Right.
And more than half of the people that she saw and she met with were people that donated to her foundation or pledged to donate to the foundation.
And a lot of them got favors done by the Secretary of State.
Well, the favors they got oftentimes made them a lot of money, like the guy that got the rights to cut down all the trees and rape and pillage the forests in Colombia.
Right.
So that was one of the examples. So my question is, so she distracts by using the race card and saying Donald Trump is a Klan member, basically, and David Duke loves Donald Trump. Meanwhile, she took $20,000 from a Klan person, and that was in the Washington Times. But putting that aside, I think this backfires because this happens every year.
Yes.
I think this is a step too far. The polls show a very close tightening over the weekend.
Yes.
Do you think that backfires?
Yes, I do. I just think people have gotten fed up with this. It was 20 years ago. Peter Brimlow said the modern definition of racism is a conservative winning an argument with a liberal. And to just hear it, as you say, every 4 years. Look at Donald Trump. He hasn't been involved in politics through his entire life. Not a racist, not a racist, not a racist. He opens up, he's unusual in this way, opens up his clubs to blacks, Jews, Asians. His clubs are very unusual that way. He was asked on the Howard Stern show when Stern was pushing him. This was 5-10 years ago. Would you let Ivanka date a black man? He said yes. He said yes. Never, always had a great relationship with blacks. He has lots of black employees. Suddenly, he runs for president as a Republican, and oh my gosh, we never noticed this before. He must be a Klan member. It's racism. And watching the media, the New York Times, MSNBC, the entire media basically, I don't think they realize what they are doing to their very tenuous, fragile hold they have on any of the public's trust anymore.
Well, the CNN
they are
had
destroying
a poll.
themselves.
There's a Breitbart poll that came out this weekend. It shows that fully, 50-some-odd% of Americans don't trust CNN or any of these news outlets. As a matter of fact, they have a lower approval rating than the people of Congress. Let me ask you this.
Which is amazing.
Why are you certain? Because I talked to you the other night on TV, on this TV set. You're pretty certain Trump is going to win this. I'm looking at the polls. Yeah, there's a tightening, but I see that he's still down. In a lot of swing states, the ones that he's up by a sliver.
Right.
And for a Republican to win, if you look at the electoral map, they've got to run the table. They got to win Ohio, Florida,
Not really.
North Carolina, Yeah, they kind of do.
And when I say I'm certain he's going to win, I think it's more likely he wins than not. I mean, I thought from
what do you think the number is? What percent chance?
Said from the beginning, actually, basically a few weeks after the Mexican rapist speech, 90% chance of winning the nomination, 60% chance of winning the presidency. But who cares about the predictions? Why do I think he still has a very good chance to win? I'll give you two reasons. One is just, looking at the electoral map. And I wrote this column a while ago. I'll email it to you. And this was before he'd wrapped up the primary. There are about 10 states, most of them big industrial Midwest states, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin. What am I forgetting? Maybe Minnesota. Pennsylvania, not Midwest. Maine went for Perot over George Bush. Don't forget that. Okay, Maine has 2 electoral votes, but still. That's something. New Hampshire. I came up with about 10 of them. In 5 of them, Romney didn't even win the white vote as against Obama in 2012. He did not even win a majority of the white vote. In the other 5, he didn't even make his national average in those states. The reason Romney's the number, and by the way, I think Trump gets more black and Hispanic votes, but I'm looking just at white voters. White voters are still a majority in this country, and let's, exceed, for purposes of argument, we will give in to the idiot media argument saying that, Hispanics and blacks don't like Trump. Au contraire, I say. But anyway, we're leaving that aside. Just looking at white voters, I looked at the electoral map, assuming that Trump would lose, which I don't think he will, assuming he would lose Florida, assuming he would lose Virginia. Why? Not because of, Tim McCain.
Because they're letting 200,000 felons vote?
Exactly. No, exactly. Assuming he would lose, New Mexico and Colorado. And just looking at these 10 states where Romney did not get his national average or actually lost the white vote to Obama, if Trump increases that by a few points in 5 of the 10 states, roughly, it depends which state, obviously. Again, Maine has 2 electoral votes. Pennsylvania's got a lot. In only half of those states, he wins the election. And you still have to win every other state Romney won. And then add 5 of the 10 states where Romney couldn't even get his national average of the white vote. And the second reason, this is not just a procedural point. This is what he's saying. He has a sneaky appeal to everybody. He's saying to Americans, I'm going to put your interests first. I'm going to renegotiate these trade deals, bring jobs back to America, stop dumping low-wage workers on the country competing with you. I'm going to put America's interests first when it comes to going to war. I just think that is going to be popular with Americans. And yes, he has the unfortunate Republican label. But there's nothing frightening about Trump to swing voters or independent voters. I do think, and I'm a big Christian, I do think the party's been getting a little too evangelically lately. I'm an evangelical. I don't need a presidential candidate to be having a rapture on stage or speaking in tongues. And I think we've gotten a little too much of that. He's going to defend he's going to save the last Christian country on earth. I think Christians are fine with that. But there's nothing that's going to be frightening. Nobody's worried about compulsory Bible reading under Donald Trump, married to a model living on Fifth Avenue. They're not worried about the endless wars, and boy, they sure aren't worried about him sucking up to Wall Street. Wall Street hates him. He is putting the working class and the middle class first. I think that's a winning message.
I think it's a winning message, but here's a problem. You've got all these liberal rhino establishment. I don't call them whatever you want. They think they sanctimoniously are the purists in the conservative movement. But you read them, and Brett Stevens of the Wall Street Journal attacking me, and you got Jonah Goldberg at National Review attacking me, and I'm actually turning it on them. Because if you look at the Republican base support for Trump, unfortunately, it's too low to win, in my opinion, right now.
Right.
At 73, 75%. He needs 90% plus.
No, it's outrageous what they're doing.
Well, they're doing it. You have the 4 presidential candidates that promised and pledged that they would support the winner. They're still nowhere to be found, including John Kasich and Lindsey Graham and Jeb and even my friend Ted Cruz, nowhere to be found. And then you can add to that the Paul Ryans of the world that are more critical of Trump than they are of Hillary and Obama together.
That's right.
So
I don't know what they think they're winning or what they're getting out of this. I mean, first, I suppose I should say, and I've said it before, I think if Trump loses, this is the end of the country. There's no point to what you do, I do, Fox News does. It's
so
over.
I should do Howard Stern show, and we'll start asking people to take off their clothes, or what?
I'm going to start writing mysteries, but look for something else to do, because politics won't matter anymore. They will overwhelm the country with so much of the third world that Republicans will never be able to win another election. It won't be a fair fight. Americans will be being outvoted by foreigners. So what's the point in paying attention or developing arguments?
But the problem is
ethnic
this.
Groups,
but here's
people
the problem.
voting on ethnic group don't listen to the issues. But yet and still, let's pretend that there is some point. What do they think they are winning? Do they think that the Trump voters are going to forgive them for this? They're destroying the Republican Party one way or another. What do they think they're winning here?
But you're making my point. My answer is this. If Hillary Clinton becomes the next president and she makes Supreme Court appointments, I blame Jonah. And I blame Brett Stevens. And I blame National Review. And I blame Paul Ryan. And I blame the 4 Republican candidates because they have sabotaged their own party candidate for whatever reasons they may have. They think they're pure. They think they ideologically are superior to everybody else.
Purely for the donors.
Okay, but
purely for K-Street.
When we're not energy independent, when we continue to have Obamacare, when our borders are not secure, when
there are 9 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs on the Supreme Court, we can't win anything. Yeah.
Refugees kill people. I'm holding them responsible.
Yeah, I agree. You can keep your show going for another 5 years just so we can do
pounding them.
Just so we can go through who is responsible. We'll do it name by name, and at some point we could have a little public outing and go dig up Eddie Kennedy's grave so we can desecrate it.
All right, we'll stay right there. I'm gonna keep Ann Coulter. May get calls for Ann when we get back.
That would be fantastic, especially for people who have read my book. In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome.
All right. And it's in bookstores everywhere, and it's on Amazon.com, and we linked it to Hannity.com if you want to take a look. All right, so you wrote Adios America. That was your last book. Donald Trump comes along and says, we're going to have extreme vetting of refugees, and then he talks about building a wall. That message is resonating with people. I've been down.
Actually, I think you got the order wrong. He opened with the wall.
He did. All right.
On June 16th, 2015.
So he's proposing these things. The American people seem to be responding to it. Here are the headlines today. The 10,000th Syrian refugee has reached the U.S. in their resettlement program. Hillary wants a 550% increase. There was a headline on Breitbart, immigration expert, U.S. is to resettle nearly 1 million Muslim migrants under one term of a Clinton presidency. And it goes on from there. An illegal alien who killed a nun was on Obama's supervised release program.
Mm-hmm. And the one who killed that 4.0 beautiful college student, Sarah Root.
Yeah, and then you got the Kate Steinle case.
Released by Obama.
Listen, I just we did a town hall with Trump the other night. You didn't like it because I was asking him if he was softening it all, and he reiterated with me today that he's not. So, but the question is, if America does not get control of its borders, and Clapper and Comey and Brennan and Steinbeck and Mike McCall and General Allen all say ISIS will infiltrate the refugee population,
of course, they
and Americans die, wouldn't you say the people that support that policy have blood on their hands?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I already think the New York Times and Teddy Kennedy and everyone who supported the 1965 Act, I mean, they have not even gallons. They have entire skyscrapers full of blood for what they've done to America. And for what? So that the Democrats can win elections and so that the rich can have cheaper gardeners and maids. It is not being done for the average American. It's an awful thing. And I mean, just take these Syrian refugees. Why is that America's problem? I mean, even if you're going to say, and I don't think it is, that Latin America is our problem, can't Europe deal with the Syrians? What, we're just the charity ward of the world? Oh, there's a crisis someplace in the world. We must bring in hundreds of thousands of people from this incredibly backward culture who don't speak English, some of whom will end up being criminals, terrorists, more than 50% of whom will be accepting welfare. That's welfare meant for our own people.
But isn't Sharia, let me ask you as a constitutional lawyer.
For our people. That's Social Security for our people. All these things, you know, one thing that Trump totally changed my mind on, which I guess writing Adios America changed my mind on it. Yes, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. I used to be in favor of these attempts to try to save it by reforming it, you know, the entitlement reform that Paul Ryan already talks about. Now I'm just enraged and I think it's a scam. Here's my reform. It's for Americans. Even the very unusual immigrants, at least until recently, the H-1B visa workers. And those are supposedly the high-tech workers, the one that took all those jobs in Disney, the ones that Mark Zuckerberg employs, really they're indentured servants.
Democrats are smarter than Republicans.
But wait, I just want to explain this point. Let me finish this point. So Zuckerberg gets the cheap labor. He's really just getting a standard computer programming. Why is he cheaper? For one thing, the guy can't go, the foreign worker, H-1B worker, can't go to Microsoft instead. That's point one. But what does he get out of it? Well, he's not that much of a star because actually India and Pakistan have some, they're building nuclear bombs. They're doing fine. They have their brain trust. So we're getting the ones doing standard programming work. And, they're lovely people, I'm sure. But they get to bring in their elderly relatives who immediately start accepting Social Security. The reason Social Security is being bankrupt and Medicare and Medicaid, there's also the immigrant fraud on Medicare and Medicaid. Oh, my gosh, look at those cases. I have one page of them in Adios America. There isn't an American name there. There are different ethnicities have different criminal habits, and government fraud is one of them. But also they're bringing in their entire extended families who immediately go on Social Security, which they never paid into. That is for Americans.
See, Democrats, I think, are a lot smarter than Republicans because they view immigration, resettlement, refugees as a way to build a long-term generational shift politically. They want a voting base, right. And dopey Republicans are catering to, you're right, big business. Here's the problem. Donald Trump's reaching out to the black community, and he's saying, hey, if we don't have secure borders, that means, okay, we have 95 million Americans out of the labor force, a 20% increase in black Americans out of the labor force since Obama's been president, and we're going to invite all these people, and they're going to compete for the few jobs that are available and in the process drive down wages.
Right.
So it makes no sense.
No, Hillary's, argument to the black community is, no, I have this study here from the New York Times that shows that it's good for the black community to compete with Mexicans for jobs. Yeah, that's a great argument. Trump is 100% right when he says Hillary sees black people as voters, and that's it, because none of her policies are going to help black people and are going to hurt them quite significantly, especially on the crime issue. I've written about this a lot in Mugged and columns. I think I've talked to you about it. Talk to any criminal prosecutor in America. There is no juror they like more than a married black person with a job.
All right, let's get to some phone calls. Ann Coulter is with us, a brand new book, In Trump We Trust. We will start with Carrie is in Austin, Texas. We were down in Austin last week. Carrie, hi, how are you? And welcome to the Sean Hannity Show. What's going on?
I'm great. How are you? Oh, no, I wanted to talk to you about immigration. I've lived basically all over the state of Texas. I'm 41 years old, and I spent 7 months living in McAllen, Texas. Lived in San Antonio, Texas, where I grew up, and I'm proud to be Texan. However, immigration, illegal immigration, let's not say immigration, illegal immigration from Mexico is a problem for Texas. It is by far goes to all the northern states. But my biggest concern is the safety of my children. And the best thing I can say is if any country needs a wall, the United States needs a wall. And it is not against anyone that says that they are Mexican. It is not against any color. What it is against is crime. And the fact is that if you come over to the United States legally, that is not a crime. Mm-hmm. If you come over to the United States illegally, that is a crime. Hi, Ann, by the way.
Hello.
Great let's get an answer. Carrie. All right, go ahead.
Well, no, I couldn't understand before, and it's a point I stressed in Adios America, and now I understand, and actually you expressed some of it, Carrie. But this obsessive distinction between legal and illegal immigration, because, look, all the refugees are legal. The 9/11 hijackers were legal. The Boston Marathon bomber was legal. And the ones taking jobs, the H-1B visa workers, a lot of the legal workers driving down wages. The legal immigration is a problem, too. But having said that, what I like about what you said, Carrie, is that I'm starting to get this sense from the media that they act as if whenever we talk about illegal immigrants, we are talking about every Hispanic in the country. No, I think most people don't realize, look at just legal immigration. What country do we get most of our legal immigrants from? And by far, Mexico. It's not diverse at all. Pre-Teddy Kennedy's 1965 Immigration Act, we took more than 5% of our immigrants from about a handful of countries, about 5 or 6. Post-1965 immigration, overwhelmingly from Mexico. Why isn't that? A, it's not diverse. B, it's actually quite discriminatory that, if you're a poor person, you can come here as long as you live within walking distance, but not, the poor Bangladeshis. But I think it's an important point you make, Carrie, stressing the legal versus illegal, in the point that this is not an anti-Hispanic point. It is an anti-criminal, illegal immigration.
Mexico is a lot tougher, and nobody ever
well,
brings
every
this point
country
up.
on earth is.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But you know what? What do you just say to all these? Like Hillary takes money from Saudi Arabia. I bring this point up all the time. How do you take up to $25 million for the foundation for a country that tells? How would you like me to tell you how to dress? Tell Ann Coulter she can't drive a car. Tell Ann Coulter whether she can work or not work, or write a book or not write a book, or go to school. Tell Ann Coulter that she can't leave her house without a male relative. And then tell Ann Coulter she can't go to a Christian church because they don't have any. You can't go to a Jewish temple because they don't have any.
Right.
And by the way, I know you have gay and lesbian friends that they're going to be put to death. We
Thrown
catch them
from a building.
and
yeah.
she takes
soccer games played with their heads. No, it's disgusting. This is diversity. Welcome to diversity is a strength, as we're told 1 million times a day, every day of our lives. This is diversity. Look, you can't pick and choose your multiculturalism. You can't say I love the restaurants, but I hate the throwing gays from
building.
building.
We say that Sharia is incompatible with our Constitution? Why
No,
can't people
I mean,
just say that? There's a clash of cultures.
Look, as I say in the current book, In Trump We Trust, having a Muslim ban, which I'll just say for short, because liberals become obsessed with, will there be any exceptions? This idea that, but what about King Abdullah of Jordan, as was said on one cable news network. I think, there will be a Muslim ban.
You're obsessed with
but
watching
there will be
MSNBC. You're like the only person that watches it.
That was Charles Krauthammer on Fox.
Oh, sorry.
But there will be exceptions.
Yeah.
I get the idea. I mean, I understood from the beginning. Most of America understood. Trump is stating a general policy. There will be exceptions. It's called the fine art of making distinctions and so on and so forth. But the Muslim ban generally, this is not like saying, we're not taking black people. It would be as if in the 1940s we have an immigrant show up at Ellis Island. We have him cough, slap him on the back, check his head for lice, open his suitcase, and find a dog-eared, heavily underlined copy of Mein Kampf. How is it? Don't you think we'd say no thanks? How is that different from someone who believes these things that you are just reciting about Sharia law? You are not born a Muslim. This is a set of beliefs. It is a set of beliefs that you cannot be. You can be born into a Muslim family. You can be born into, we're not talking about eating pita and lamb. We're talking about a set of beliefs here that is fundamentally incompatible with the American way of life, the American Constitution, with freedom and liberty and our entire nation. No, multiculturalism doesn't work when you're bringing in a philosophy, an ideology. Completely at odds with our nation.
But look at Europe. I mean, Europe, the Islamization of Europe is pretty much complete now, especially under the more recent influx of refugees into Germany. Look, who would have thought that Great Britain has 88 Sharia courts?
I know.
Separate and apart from all other people that live in Great Britain.
Who would have thought that Sweden would be the rape capital of the world, a place where rape was unheard of? But they decided, no, it's getting boring looking at all these handsome men and beautiful women. Let's dump millions of third world quote refugees.
Go
on
to
our
John
country.
in Orlando. John, you're on the Sean Hannity Show. Ann Coulter's with us. Her new book, In Trump We Trust. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Sean? How you doing, Ann?
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, Sean, I was calling about Donald Trump. I was kind of agreeing with him. A lot of the Mexicans have came in, not just Mexicans. A lot of the immigrants come in. They're uneducated. I'm a black man that worked for minimum wage before. I don't have a college degree. They're not really threatening to people like Ben Carson. They're more threatening to the inner city people who's trying to get the low-paying job. The Mexicans come over here and work for 50 cents an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You have black people. The minimum wage is already low that we can't hardly pay for our lights and everything at the houses where we living in. Then you bring the Mexican in, they live 6, 7 in a house.
Mm-hmm.
America knew what was going on. Trump is the only one that has stood up and really said that. It's more of it hurts the black community more than a lot of people because the jobs are low-paying jobs. They're not jobs with degrees and everything. And those are the jobs that the immigrants going to get first before they get a chance to get through schooling and all of that. If Trump really wants the black vote, he needs to go down into the ghettos of America and talk to the people.
He's actually doing it more than any Republican I can think of. Now, here's another interesting
or a
side note.
Democrat, and talking about the most important issues, which John was just saying you you are so absolutely right. Trump is bringing the jobs back and bringing it back
14.6%.
good, well-paying jobs that will really be great, especially for inner-city youth. I mean, I don't say this as a joke, but just the amount of labor to build that wall, to rebuild bridges and tunnels and LaGuardia, that's the kind of work that is desperately needed to be done. Besides the fact that we need the end product, it's fantastic jobs for inner-city black youths, and I think they should have affirmative action to give those jobs to inner-city black youths.
So you think that if Trump loses, the country's done? America, as we know it, has failed. It's the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, John Adams said all democracies commit suicide, and if this country elects Hillary,
what does that mean for the future of America? We have 30 seconds.
Forget America's the whole world. It's the end of the last Christian country on earth. It means we will be like Brazil or like California is now. It'll be the Tower of Babel. People will vote their ethnic groups. We'll have 9 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs on the Supreme Court. No guns. Forget an income tax. They're going to come after us with a wealth tax. And the poor, the weak, the elderly, women, black Americans will absolutely suffer the most. Of the plutocrats will eat this country dry and move on to the next country.
Well, that's optimistic, but I think America is in a rapid, precipitous decline now, and
this is the only hope. Trump is the only hope, and I never thought I'd see it. I thought it was a 10% chance.
Arrogant elitists that we used to get along with somewhat.
My chapter 3 is all on the consultant class and the Republican brain trust.
Yeah, well, they've done.
They've been
so on it this year. Have been so all over it this year. All right, Ann Coulter, it's called In Trump We Trust. E Pluribus, awesome, and it's in bookstores everywhere. It's on Amazon.com. We put it up on Hannity.com.